That wasn't to be. The long-suffering people were now faced by a new threat, as I learnt from historian Mary Dobson.
Well, they got some sheep established in the reclaimed land, and one rather hopes that they would have had a period of peace and stability thereafter.
Far from it, no. In fact, by reclaiming the land, they created conditions that were ideal for mosquitoes, breeding mosquitoes. And this mosquito actually carried malaria.
Malaria?
Malaria.
One thinks of it as a tropical disease.
Yes, yes. It was a form that's not as fatal as the form that you find in the tropics, but nevertheless it wreaked havoc on the marshland populations, and mortality rates in the area were extremely high, and people really did suffer from what they called the ague.
And you've evidence that it really was worse down on the marshes.
That's right, yes. I've actually done a study which I called Contours of Death, because the contours of death match the contours of the land. And if you look at the low-lying areas, death rates were really very high. Where we're standing here, it was much healthier, death rates were lower. So you get the undulation of the landscape following the patterns, the contours of death. By looking at the parish registers, it seems that probably from the early 17th century, mortality starts to peak. People are suffering from all sorts of other diseases. Populations are generally unhealthy, and malaria really is the final straw for the marshland populations.
I can see how this might have happened. After reclaiming the land as sheep pasture with just a few shepherds needed, there was probably not enough manpower to keep the drainage ditches clear. The stagnant water would then have become home to the mosquitoes that carry the malarial parasite.
Did they make an association between stagnant water and the ague?
Well, it's very interesting because the word malaria, mal-area, literally means bad air. And what they believed was that it was the bad air that caused the disease, and the marshes were stagnant, they were smelly. And they thought that by getting rid of these stagnant areas, they could actually improve the health of the population.
They were right for the wrong reasons.
That's right, yes.
Mary explained that once the poor drainage had been tackled, health on the marsh improved. The turning point was the cutting of the Royal Military Canal. Built for defence in the early 19th century, it became the most important drainage channel to the sea. By the end of the century, the mosquitoes and the malaria had gone, but the population never recovered.
This empty landscape is the product of 800 years of difficult and sometimes violent history. We all have to combat the forces of nature from time to time, but the Romney Marsh people have had more than their share. Storm, floods, disease.
People may have left the marsh, but the landscape they battled the elements to create lives on. Now modern agriculture has led to larger fields, worked by even fewer people.
The big farms are here to stay, and the marsh will remain empty. It will keep its wonderful bleak beauty.
For a free guide to the series and details of all other Open University programmes, call 0870 900 7788 or visit our website at open2.net. Next time, the mysterious ruts on the beaches of the Yorkshire coast.
Lovely, fluffy clouds, no wind, there's no rain, nice temperature. It's almost as if the elements are in repose. And if I'm waxing a little lyrical there, it's because I used to think that whatever powers were up there governing the weather didn't really like wildlife events, because every time I opened a hide or went to something like that, you know, a nature reserve, it would bucket down. And yet, we've been here for nearly 3 weeks, and it hasn't rained once. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I know we've said this how many times? 10 times probably now. Fantastic farm that we're on here. And it strikes me it's not only a very successful working farm, you know, with crops and animals and stuff like that. It's a sort of wildlife gardening on a grand scale, isn't it? So you've got no pesticides on in the fields. You've got lovely meadows. You've got lovely old buildings there that have been left with places for things to nest in. Nice hedges here, smashing great big trees at the back there. And of course, no wildlife garden is complete without a water feature. Behold! Well, it's a pond, really, down the bottom of the hill. And we'll be visiting that, won't we, Kate?
We will be visiting that. We will be spending a lot of time there. And I will also be showing you how you can make a pond all of your own. And by doing so, joining our Make Space for Nature campaign. 57,000 of you have already, and you can join them this evening. But first, let's go to London and see Simon King.
Simon, go there.
Welcome once again to the London Wetland Centre. It looks green and wild here. It is green and wild here. All the more extraordinary then that we are bang smack in the heart of England's capital city. 105 acres of wetlands, marsh and woodland, supporting a phenomenal variety of wild creatures. This is making space for nature on a very grand scale, and I'm going to be looking at some of the animals that live here, including foxes, we hope, water voles and all of those glorious birds. All of that later in the programme. Back now to Devon.
Right, into the barn. Just a little bit chilly tonight now, but it's ever so nice. Now, Simon King thinks he's got a water feature as well. Yeah, Wetland Centre, great place, got to admit it. But we've got our own little pond down there.
Yeah, a mini version.
Yes, it is. It's not that small, actually. It's quite, it must be, oh, I don't know how long, but it's quite big. And it's got a camera on it now. We've actually put our pond cam, not in the water, but over the water. And we've been having a look at the various things that have been swooping down, notably our swallows, which are nesting in the barn just behind us there with their 5 youngsters. And every now and again, they come down. Now, they're not feeding. I'm sure this bird isn't feeding because it dips in the water and it's scooping up. It's chasing a dragonfly accidentally there, but it's scooping up water to drink. I'm sure that's what's happening here. And it's got a big wide mouth as well. Oh, this is great. This was about around all day. This is, of course, a kestrel. Just like being on the motorway, isn't it? Yeah. That is a great shot.
It's a beautiful shot.
It's a young one. The swallow now doesn't like the kestrel, so it mobs the kestrel. If one bird can mob a kestrel, it's leaving a vapour trail, isn't it? Come on, my son. And another one. Oh, 2 swallows. Get rid of that bird. Get rid of that bird. Now, in fact, I must admit, you know, I often wonder whether birds are very good at identifying one another because anything that looks like a bird of prey gets mobbed. You'll often see a heron, for example, flying over the middle of town, and it will have an entourage of crows, you know, mobbing it, saying, oh, you're a bird of prey. I said, no, I'm a heron, leave me alone. In this case, you've got the kestrel, which is a falcon, it's a bird of prey, but it would no way attempt to catch a swallow. It couldn't do it. It's not good enough. It's not fast enough or anything like that. But there is a bird called a hobby falcon, which has been seen around here. There's 1 or 2 around this area, and they, just now and again, they would go after swallows. They normally go after dragonflies, so quite like to see them on the pond. So the camera's down there. If a hobby appears, drop everything, cut to the hobby.
We'll go and see it. But in the meantime, let's go to our spotted flycatcher. They're all brilliant timing. Oh, that was fantastic. Both of them.
There are 2, mother, father, identical. That's the first time they've done that.
That is fantastic.
That is the first time
live,
they've done that.
absolutely on
Wow.
cue.
They don't hang about, though. I've noticed that, actually. They're just very rarely, one of them sat there for a while and kind of cleaned out the nest. And, of course, they're feeding frantically, and they're catching flies. Just what it says on the tin, a fly catcher catches flies. And you can usually spot where they're going to be. You just look around and you see a nice little branch like that, and you can guess that's where it's going to go, and it'll catch its fly on the floor in this case and straight back onto the same perch. It's got a little mayfly or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
So it will always go back to the same spot?
Nearly always, or a similar perch. You really can anticipate. And there's the baby's being fed. What's it got? That's a bit of a, I don't know, what is that there? Same fly? I don't know. Same fly. Oh, that's it's got a moth. I was trying to identify that moth yesterday, and it's eaten it. That's no good. You can't count moths you see on the telly, unfortunately.
Let's see how Polly is doing. Oh, we've got a very lively looking chick.
Very hungry looking chicken.
Very hungry looking chick. They are getting bigger, and it does look like their eyes
Oh, their eyes are open. Yeah, no, definitely. Let's just remind people, this nest is right by the main road. There are lorries and things zooming past, and there's the male. He's just coming in to feed the babies. I think this was early in the day.
This was earlier today.
Why tell them? Why tell the viewers? What magic? No, it's happening right now. And that's certainly happening right. Look at those hairdos. This is happening right now. That is wonderful, isn't it? I mean, all these baby birds have this sort of little tufty bits on the side like that. Let's go. No, I'm a cherry. I'm doing it. Am I not? No, I'm not. You go to the real thing, well, you know what I mean. Casey enjoy it. There we are. Imagine it's like that, and the rest is bald.
Like a baby
I do,
bird
don't I?
Yeah.
Almost got the mouth.
You do. You do. Bird bath. Now, this has been very popular today because it has been extremely hot down in Devon. There's not a great deal happening on it right now, but we have had a lot of visitors, and this is really exciting because our great tits were some of the first birds to fledge about 3 weeks ago, and we think this might be one of our young great tits.
I think so. I think they're regretting having fledged so early. Because I remember we said at the time, well, you know, OK, you're not going to be on the telly. We'll have to put the blue tits in, and we did. But here's another young great tit. You can see that sort of washed-out plumage they have to them. Yeah, not quite as...
Oh, nuthatch on the left there.
Well done, well done. Had a quick peck at the great tit by the look of it. And I think I'm still not convinced about that angle. It is not flattering. Family of greenfinches drinking, you see how they can't slurp like we did. I mean, if you, and I'm sure you have on some occasions, I'll have a drink from, not a bird bath, you know, but like that, out of something, a mountain stream, cool as a mountain stream. But they can't do that. They have to scoop it up and like this and like that, yeah.
Simon, you any good at slurping?
Of course he is. I've seen him do it.
Kate, well, I've tried slurping in the past. I don't think I'll have a sip of the pond just now because I'm sure it's perfectly wonderful water, I have no doubt, but nonetheless, I think I'll give it a miss. I do find the initiative of this project absolutely astonishing, especially when you consider it's really in its infancy. It's only been going for about 9 years. 9 years ago, this whole place was concrete reservoirs, relatively little natural life in the area, and yet in that time it's become the most astonishing example of wetland with reed beds, open water, marshland, and it's already been adopted by many thousands of birds and other creatures. And now there are some extraordinary statistics, and one I particularly love is the reed warbler story here. Only, let's see, it's about 5 years ago now, in 1999, there was just one pair that moved in because the reeds at that stage had just reached maturity and they could start to nest. Today, over 100 pairs are nesting in the reed beds. Now that is quite an astonishing feat, and it's only going up. It's getting better and better. If that's not voting with your feet, well, wings in a bird's case, I don't know what is. And how about this? We've been looking at all sorts of nest boxes throughout the course of the week, but I think we have the nest box to beat them all. I like to call this the Trump Towers of nest boxes. It's 100 or so artificial nest burrows designed especially for sand martins. Now, it's one thing to build a structure like this, quite another to have birds using it. Now, this was only finished, Sand Martin Towers as I like to call it, only finished just over a year ago, and already the martins are nesting in it. Quite a feat. So, what about our foxes? Let's have a little look and see what's going on, because I happen to know that just moments ago, one of the cubs was trotting around the earth. I promise you, just as we came on air, having a sniff in that area. But not now. We'll come straight to the earth if it does show up. We have, however, been keeping a very close eye on these foxes for some time now. And here they are. This is exactly what they look like. This is just a couple of days ago this was recorded. Britain has some magnificent wildlife, but I think you've got to go a long way to rival the fine features and beauty of a young fox. We know there are at least 3 cubs in the earth. Perhaps more, although it's very difficult to know because they're moving around a lot now, very mobile, about 10, 11 weeks old. And that's not the only family we've been keeping an eye on. There's another family up on the bank, which is the edge of an old reservoir, carefully looked after by, I think this is the vixen. She looks a wee bit scruffy, but that's quite normal for foxes at this time of year. They lose their summer coat, sorry, they lose their winter coat throughout the course of the summer. The front half of her is winter coat, back half summer coat. And she'll continue to lose that long guard hair throughout the rest of the summer, gradually building up the beautiful red russet coat that she'll sport throughout the rest of the year. The cubs are enormously boisterous at this time. Now, it's entirely likely that this family is looked after not just by the vixen, but certainly the dog fox. We've been seeing the dog fox. We saw him last night trotting around hunting on the reservoirs. And there may well be another vixen in the group. It's quite common for perhaps a daughter of last year, or even the vixen's sister, to help out with raising the cubs. I think we have live images of the cubs right now. There they are, look at that. Now this is, as I speak, a fox cub trotting around the earth. This is not the Bank family, this is the Hyde family. What a glorious little creature. Super active, checking it out. It's much cooler this evening, I'm sure that's why we're seeing them now. What a treat. We're going to come back to the foxes at any time they poke their heads above ground throughout the course of the programme now. Back down to Devon, Bill and Kate.
That's kind of, it's slightly weird for me that, oh, this is even weird. We've got a camera skimming over the water like it thinks it's a swallow or something. Come on, come on, come on, he can do it. That's rather weird for me, actually, you know, seeing foxes in the middle of London, where I also live, which look as though they're in the country. Because I'm used to seeing them walking down the main road, quite literally, you know.
We have them sort of, you know, dodging through the cars,
exactly,
walking along the pavement,
and a quick snuffle in the dustbin and this sort of thing,
absolutely, absolutely. Let's go and have a look at our buzzards. There they are, that's the top shot of them, and by magic, there we go, that's the other shot of them.
Can I name them, Kate? I feel these birds would have a name. They are Rosie and David, these are.
Any particular reason?
It's named after two young people who are about to throw themselves into the dreadful wide world, and it's a tough one out there. And if they get looked after half as well as these babies, that's fine. They're better looking than these two anyway, I tell you.
Yes, these two are being looked after spectacularly well. We got on film earlier today. This is one of the adults.
Can I just say that, because it looks enormous, doesn't it, as it comes in? Oh, I'll go back to that in a minute, because there's a feeding bit here.
What she brought? There's brought a frog.
It's a frog. It's a frog.
Now, we've also been seeing this quite a lot during the day, that one of them seems absolutely determined that it can feed itself,
absolutely.
And the other one just waits for the mother to do it for it.
I think it can. They've also been fighting, I have to say, about food, but I think we've got some... bang on cue, I didn't know that. Leave him alone, leave him alone. Two things. The first one I was going to say was a buzzard, enormous bird, you know, and when people see them soaring in, as that one did, maybe they're in Scotland or Wales, I'm afraid millions of times. Oh, there's one live coming in with a...
Where is it?
Look at this.
There it is, just over the trees.
No, I don't think that's the same one, is it? Because it got... Let's have a look. This is all happening live, folks.
Quick.
It's over the trees, but I think it's got some... I think that's already got something in its talons. It has, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, definitely.
Well, it's either not ours or it's going the wrong way. It's over there. Babies in the trees. Follow the cables and look for the cameras right at the top. And it'll get there, it'll get there. I'll get to my bit eventually. I say, when they're coming like that, people often say, oh, I've seen an eagle. You know, and it has to be said, well, put it this way. In Scotland, they call buzzards tourists eagles. Because there's a heck of a lot more buzzards, especially these days. And they're not just in the Highlands, they're actually down on grassy fields, you know, that's where they get the frogs. They don't go into the pond or anything, they just sit in the field, and there's another one flying. It's just non-stop here.
Non-stop live
It's like
action.
Arizona desert, isn't it? Like, damn, their buzzards are certain.
It seems a shame to interrupt the live action, but I do have to tell you that when you see those shots of the chicks in their nest, just think about this, just for a moment. You are seeing them live. Absolutely live at the same time that we're seeing them. And that is down to a couple of heroes of mine. Have a look at this. These two, those aren't quite heroes, those are stars. But the reason that we are able to see those pictures live are down to these two. James on the left there in the khaki, he was the one who managed to haul me up a tree last week, which was very heroic indeed. And in the black is Mark. And these two have been responsible for all our cameras. And James is shinnying 60 feet up that tree to put up 2 cameras. This is Peter Robinson, who is the consultant ornithologist here on the farm. But these two have fixed all the cameras for our birds so that we can see them. Now, this is fascinating.
What's in the bag, you may wonder, and you may be a little shocked at this. This is one of the babies. They're not being taken away.
Any food on the nest?
Any food, he's asking, or something?
Say loads?
No, toads.
One toad.
Toads, yeah, okay. So Peter is going to ring the chick. I know that sounds, oh, what do you mean ring it? Just put a little metal ring on its leg, and the leg is fully grown already at this stage, so there's no way that it's that ring is going to get too tight and you're going to have to change it or anything like that. It has a number on, everything is logged, records are kept. If that bird is found again as an adult, you know, let's face it, it may sadly have come to a bad end somewhere, because buzzards still do get poisoned and that sort of thing. But at least this is the way we build up a picture of the movements, not only of buzzards, but any birds. It's been going on the ringing scheme now for, I don't know, about 60, 70 years, and I used to do it. I was a qualified ringer. You have to have a license, so no mucking about, highly trained, and these pictures are from a couple of days later, which only goes to show the birds and not harmed in any way
happy
whatsoever.
And they're eating, and because of the magic of technology, we've got radio links sending those pictures and sound as well. We've got microphones up there back to the production office and then satelliting to your living room. So thanks to technology, we really are getting some fantastic views of our wildlife.
And thanks to technology and boats and planes and things, we can go to completely different places. Not live in this particular case, but we're going to go from a woody habitat, if you like, to one of my very favourite habitats, which is totally treeless. Little islands. I love them. Island wildlife, island human life. A little bit special, a little bit different. Like this fella. This is Liam McFall. He lives on Rathlin Island off the north coast of Northern Ireland.
I've lived in Rathlin all my life. My father and my grandfather have lived in Rathlin. Born here, I was brought up here, and it just grows on you, and it's home, and it's a great place to be. If you've been away a few days, just so nice to get on that ferry and head for home. Myself, my brother operate a small beef herd here, and we're just coming out of the winter now. It's a bit easier. They'll look after themselves, they'll go on new grass, and you just check them once a day, and it frees up your time to go off and do the other things that sort of kick in at this time of year now. In spring and early summer, I mean, the island looks amazing. It says a lot for the way the farmland's being managed. So that would be one of the reasons this encouraged myself and my brother to convert to organic farming. There's no chemicals, so the habitat's in really, really good shape. Wildflowers all over the meadows and the fields everywhere. This is a classic example of the heathlands we have here, and then a bit later in summer now, these will just be carpeted with these orchids. These are heath-spotted orchids here, and on up here a bit is the Rathlin's real speciality, pyramidal bugle, one of the rarest plants in Ireland. Only occurs in one other place. This is him here. And this one over here is spring squill. Another nice one.
Rathlin has its own special animals too. It's a stronghold for the Irish hare, an ancient relative of the mountain hare that doesn't turn white in winter. In fact, these hares are even more special. After thousands of years of breeding in isolation on Rathlin, this tiny population actually looks different to those on the mainland. They become distinctly paler and more compact. With a human population of only a few hundred, there often simply aren't enough folk around to do all the essential jobs on the island. So, like the hares, the people of Rathlin lead a rather different life from those on the mainland. Liam's not just a farmer, he's the island fisherman and the wildlife warden and even the fireman.
It's nice working here on the island and seeing nature at work. That's part of everybody's life. It's just, you know, and you get blasé because you live amongst it all the time, and you have to stop and think, you know, we're very lucky to live here. There's quite a lot of scenes all around the coast of the island. They like their comfort, they're quite lazy, they get beached on a nice warm day and they just stay there, and you can see them resisting as the tide comes in. They're sort of holding their heads up and their tails up, trying to stay on as long as possible. We've got around 96,000 guillemots and 21,000 razorbills, so it's a big colony. It's a noisy place, it is indeed. Seabirds have been important to the people that live on Rathlin, you know, all through the generations. You know, my grandfather's time, they would have, you know, taken the eggs and the birds for food, and now it's still important because a lot of people come to see the birds, so that generates an income. The birds are as important as they were 150 years ago for the whole economy of the island. There's 5 species: guillemots, razorbills, puffins, kittywits, fulmars. We have a series of census plots throughout the colony, and these census plots are counted every year the exact same place. So you can look at the records going back over years, and if you see a sharp decline in numbers, you might warrant further investigation from there on. We've been censusing the birds here now for over 20 years, and I've been doing it for the past 14. And it's very important work because these birds can be indicators of the health of the sea and the environment that they live in. It's very worthwhile keeping an eye on what's happening here. It's nice working here on the island. You know, a lot of the time you get to spend outdoors and in the environment, and you know, seeing nature at work. And then you've got the miserable days when you have to go out and it's not very pleasant. If you're sitting on a cliff top in the early morning and counting seabirds and your hands are freezing, you think, why am I doing this? But it's all very worthwhile at the end of the day. Can't see me doing much else, no.
It's the atmosphere of the little island, absolutely special. And I promise you, people come from all over the world to visit British seabird islands. They're really, really something to be proud of, put it that way. And also, the point that Liam made there, really important, is that birds often are the best indicators of whether things are going okay, especially the things we can't see. You know, we don't know what's going on under the water in the sea, but if the birds, for example, are starving, they can't find enough fish, their egg shells are thinning, you know, some kind of poison going on, that's the first sign we get that there's something wrong down there under the water, and we can find out what it is, hopefully, and doing something about it is a tricky one, but we've really got to. Okie dokie, we're going to go straight to
Wagtails.
Wagtails,
Let's
yes.
go and see them. Oh, there doesn't seem to be anything there.